Hello guys and welcome to Mangotology, and thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, my name is Steven Mango and I'm an ex-Scientologist that works here on YouTube to expose Scientology. So if you want to stay up to date on all my videos, please make sure to go down below and click that red subscribe button, as well as the bell icon right next to it, which will turn on your post notifications so you don't miss any of my videos exposing the Church of Scientology. So today I wanted to talk to you about my rehab stay that I had after I left Scientology. It's something that I haven't opened up to publicly and spoke about here on my channel, or even really spoke to people that I'm actually close with. A lot of people don't actually know that I went to rehab. So I want to share that story with you because it pertains to my Scientology trauma and my mental health. And it's something that I really want to be open about here on my channel because Scientology wants to discredit mental health. They want to discredit the mental health industry, and they want to say that mental health and certain conditions such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, that those don't exist. There are these things in your mind of past trauma and upsets, even going back millions of lifetimes. Something could have happened 4,000 lifetimes ago, and that's what could be holding you back currently in 2019. And yeah, you're depressed. Well, let's look for the earlier similar, and let's keep going earlier and earlier and earlier. And eventually you're going to release some sort of charge that's going to fix your depression in 2019. And you could be, going all the way back to, 1821 and talking about how, you fell off a horse, and maybe that's where your chronic pain comes from in today's day and age. So that's how Scientology treats and believes mental health is. It's just like this part of your mind that is reactive that you have to get rid of in auditing. And mental health industry is psychiatrists and medical pharmaceutical companies that are trying to hypnotize us, keep us hooked on these pharmaceutical drugs that make us sick, so we need more pharmaceuticals. So eventually we're more controllable as a society so they can implant messages into us. These pharmaceutical companies are funded and fund these different big networks such as Disney, ABC. You've seen how they've attacked A&E for having Leah Remini's show out. And they'll claim that these pharmaceutical companies are funding these type of productions to take down Scientology, because that's the workable science, because all of the psychiatrists and all these different people, they're evil. They're trying to keep people on drugs, because if Scientology was so workable, people wouldn't need the pharmaceutical drugs. So the pharmaceutical companies are apparently, biased to, I don't know, guys. I could go into a whole video about that. I know you guys say that I ramble. I'm not going to go into all of that. But basically, long story short, the pharmaceutical companies are in competition with Scientology. They want to be powerful and run the world, and that's why they're drugging people on these psychiatric drugs. And Scientology is the answer. It has so much freedom. Anything that has that much freedom, people are going to attack it to prevent that level of freedom from being accessible to the world. So I came out of Scientology in 2013-ish, I would say. And I feel like a lot of people don't really understand when it comes to like post-traumatic stress disorder, when it comes to different trauma, that it doesn't necessarily always surface right away. People think that when you're being abused, or say you're in an abusive relationship, for example, or anything like that, that the feelings of post-traumatic stress and everything are just going to be there as it's happening. And sure, like you could be experiencing very traumatic symptoms when you're in the middle of something abusive, such as like being in a cult. But for me, I really felt like my feelings about everything took a while because I had to decompress. When you first leave, sometimes you can feel liberated, you're great, you're happy, you're out in the real world, like, got in a relationship and getting married and like all these really great things, thinking, okay, Scientology is going to be put in the past. But then you kind of sit in your feelings and you're like, oh, wait a minute, like I have all, these feelings that I've really been pushing down, or until I've really sat in, my normal headspace, then the thoughts start flooding in, the nightmares and things start coming up, and you start feeling that sense of loss. And even if it's something bad, it still is a loss. For me, I really thought that this was my spiritual eternity. Going up the bridge and getting auditing was what was going to set me free as a being. And now I can look back at some of my thoughts and be like, oh, that's kind of crazy. But I also really felt connected to Scientology because they had all the answers to everything. And even if I was broken as a person then, I knew all I had to do was turn to Scientology. So when you don't have that Scientology anymore to turn to, thinking that they're the answers and have the answers to fix you, when you're out in the real world and you don't have like that stable thing, you start really going, you know, a little crazy in your mind and you start freaking out. Even after a while, like I started getting therapy and stuff and going to like an LGBT affirmative psychotherapist that would basically not really handle my Scientology stuff, but it's like, you're gay, so you're so special, you're amazing, you're a beautiful snowflake. And that's great and wonderful, but I don't always necessarily need someone to talk me up like that. I sometimes want someone who can help my problems and help handle the stress and the pain and the trauma that, you know, I've been through. And I know that when you have low self-esteem, it's good to hear those type of things, but on the other hand, it doesn't help really get to the root of the issues that are, you know, plaguing someone. So I started going to some different therapy. I've told you about my experience going to a cult-related therapist, but this was after the fact. So this was in 2015, and I was having a bit of like a mental breakdown, if you will. I was going to hairdressing school, but at a point in hairdressing school, I'm kind of realizing I don't really know if this is like what I'm meant to do for like the rest of my life. Like I enjoy it, but I don't really know if this is like my purpose or not. And it started really messing with me. And I was having issues with my family. I was having issues in my regular, just self-life in general. And I started really having a lot of post-traumatic stress come up about Scientology. I was always feeling triggered by Scientology just in like my everyday life, where something come up, an article on, you know, the computer, and I will completely, you know, start freaking out. And, you know, it's causing a lot of depression, anxiety. I was feeling suicidal, like all these really dark feelings. And I felt like I needed something more intense than just to go to therapy once a week. I thought that if I did something more intensive, then I would be able to handle my problems faster and could get started with my life, versus going to therapy once a week. It'll take 6 months just to kind of just begin the process. But if I was at, say, like a center, then I'd be able to handle my problems and maybe get better in the span of like, you know, 3 weeks maybe. So I had the idea of going to rehab as this type of place that you see like the Lindsay Lohans and, you know, these big celebrities. They go to Malibu and they check in and they ride horses and they journal and they have a private chef and they get massages and acupuncture and they go on nature walks and with their therapist and talk about their feelings. I'm like, that's kind of what I want to do. And that's what I need to kind of de-stimulate from the stress that I've been kind of going through. So I was looking at those type of places. You call them, they don't take any insurance. They want like $45,000 to $65,000 per month, and they want you there for like 3 months. And mind you guys, this isn't a drug-related issue. It wasn't drugs and alcohol for me. I don't have any addictive tendencies towards stuff like that. And again, at this point, it's like no Tylenol, no nasal spray for allergies. I was completely against all of that. So it wasn't regarding drugs and alcohol. It was strictly for mental health. So I started looking up like with my insurance, like what takes insurance, like who can, you know, have me as like inpatient to help me with my feelings. And I felt like I was never diagnosed. Obviously, because I wasn't seeing a mental therapist, I wanted to know, why am I experiencing these bouts of depression? Why am I so triggered? Why are other people leaving Scientology and they're like going on and they've, you know, big businesses and they're successful or have like no problems around it, and here I am, I was only a public member and I'm experiencing so much loss and sadness after leaving. So I found this place in Palm Springs, which is like an hour and a half from LA. I love Palm Springs. They said they're very LGBT friendly. They help with mental health. I'm gonna have my own room. There's gonna be a pool. There's gonna be someone cooking for you, and it was gonna all be so wonderful. I show up, and pretty much like a day later, I show up to the center, and they started doing the intake. The second I get in, they're breathalyzing me and doing a urine test. Now you guys have to keep in mind, every single time one of these rehab centers, I'm not saying that there aren't good ones out there, I'm sure there are, but they're big insurance billing factories. So every time you pee in a cup for these drug urinalysis, they charge the insurance like say $400. So if you're doing that twice a day, that's $800 just in urine alone. And say they're already charging like $1,500 a day for you to stay there, you staying in their center and sleeping in their home, they're billing $1,500 to $2,000 a day. So do the math, $2,000 a day times 30 days is a lot of money, and if they have 50, 100 patients, they're really making a serious income. I walk in, they're shaking my hand, there's a waterfall and stuff, but I'm thinking it's so weird. I'm telling them I don't have a drug problem. I'm not an alcoholic or anything. I'm not drinking or whatever. So like, why am I getting these like breathalyzer tests? And it just really scared me, because I realized people were coming there after having been on probation. It's court ordered, they were homeless, they were on the street, and yeah, it's great that those people are getting help, but they're mixed in with someone who's not on that level of, you know, those people might need a different level of care that I thought I needed, that I didn't really need that like level of care. So they told me I can stay there for like 3 weeks maybe or something like that, not knowing that the program is 45 to 60 days. For drugs, it's 90 days, and they have to do a year and a half of sober living. So I'm thinking, why am I having to be here for like 60 days? Like they told me I'd be here for like 3 weeks. So they pretty much kind of convinced me to come into the program when I don't feel that they were upfront and honest with me. They just wanted to get me in there and then kind of spring the news on me. And then it felt very cult-like, because I'd give them my phone. Couldn't talk to anyone on the outside world. So you're in your own space. They monitor everything 24/7. There's no locks on any doors. Like you can't go to the bathroom in privacy. And it's just very much a system. And I feel like if you're like on, like say heroin, and you need a withdrawal and detox, and you need to be under that level of supervision to stay sober in the early days, like maybe that's what you need. Some people need that. But when you're there because you are in a very controlling environment and you want to work on your problems and go to therapy, I think it's a different situation. So I eventually started going to the recovery groups, like starting the next day, and that's what they were, recovery groups. It wasn't really therapy. What I mean by that are there were people that were doing these groups that were leading them. They were certified drug and alcohol counselors. None of them were really MFTs, like marriage and family therapists, or people who had experience with Scientology, PTSD, cults, and those sort of things. It was people that were like, you know, day at a time, stay sober, look at how drugs ruined your life. So people are talking, and even though the groups were supposed to be divided for people with drugs and alcohol versus mental health, it really kind of collided, because they told me I was like the only person that came in there that didn't have like a drug and alcohol problem. Like, why don't you tell me that to begin with, that it's mostly drug and alcohol related? But they're like, yeah, like you don't use any substances, like not even marijuana, like you don't smoke, like any of that. I'm like, no, like I don't do any of those things. Like that's good, but it's kind of weird that, you know, you're here in a way. One of the admissions people watched my video the next day, who actually, the woman who did my intake was like a therapist, and then she told me like, oh my God, you've been through so much and I can't believe it, and you know, you should go and do speeches, you're a hero and you're so brave and all these sort of things. I'm like, yeah, but I need help for it. Like I'm not here because I've been able to handle speaking out in the beginning or handle leaving Scientology. Like I'm clearly here because I need some type of help, so help me. So I'm in these groups and people are like, yeah, I lost my home and I lost my wife and I have nothing and I'm on the street doing drugs and I've been in rehab 45 times. And other people, yeah, you inspire me to stay sober. Okay, great. Like, why are you here? Because I was in a cult. And they don't know, the drug and alcohol counselors, like how to handle that. And I think, you know, if there really were great therapists and stuff, like I would love that. So then what was misleading too is they said, you'll do equine therapy, which I thought was great because I love animals. And I thought for equine therapy, that's why I really signed up. They do equine therapy like once every like 6 months. You have to sign up. It's always like a waiting list and you're not going to necessarily get in. It's like a special outing. It's not like they have horses that they're like, you're on a ranch and you're with horses and every weekend you can ride a horse or something. It's like I can just go to like Burbank and ride a horse in LA if I wanted for the therapeutic value. Like, why am I here thinking that there's some special, you know how you see it in like the movies or television things, like they have the therapist with you and the horse and kind of like working out your problems. It wasn't that. The art therapy, I'm like, oh great, I can express myself through art. They basically gave you like a poster board, or I don't think they even went as far as giving you a poster board. They gave like all these gossip magazines. They're like cut out, you know, in different things, like say cars or whatever, clothes, like, and you're gonna like design like your ideal life. So just like make a collage or like make like a poster board of different things that inspire you. I'm like, okay, that might be good, but it's like I need something to talk through my problems with. Like, yes, I could see how this might be beneficial and set goals and do that sort of stuff, but it was like very elementary. Like I had like deep-rooted stuff that I really wanted to work with the therapist about. I saw the therapist. I'd only be going to the therapist, I think it was once a week or once every 2 weeks. And it's like, okay, even if I stayed there for 6 weeks, that's only 6 therapy sessions. I'm like, can I go twice a week or 3 times a week? Oh, it's not really available to do it, or you'd have to pay all this money. And what about acupuncture? No, you'd have to pay like $300 a session. Okay, you said massages. yeah, you would have to pay. It's like, I can just stay home if I wanted, get a massage, acupuncture if I was just going to pay for it. Like, why am I sleeping here? Like, why am I here? There's really no benefit to it. I think I'm going to get all this gourmet food. The house dad was basically annoyed because I was the only vegetarian of all these other guys, and then he cooked me like grilled cheese with like a brownie. It's like, it wasn't like real like healthy food, so I was feeling bad because I'm eating all this greasy crap, and then, you know, eating like junk food and snacks and stuff like that. The other people in the home, again, were the mental health people. It wasn't just the people who were doing drugs and alcohol, a different section, but the people that had mental health problems there were very seriously like screaming out and having hallucinations, and a lot of them were, you know, fine and nice to me, but I'm just saying I wasn't a danger where I needed to be under that level of, you know, surveillance where they come in the room and breathalyze you and search through all your stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can understand. I'm not doing any drugs. It's not like I have anything to hide. So breathalyze me. But it just felt like, you know, when you wake up to a breathalyzer in the morning, and it was just a very uncomfortable situation. I didn't have any of my phone. Eventually and I was only there for 9 days, guys. I make it seem like I was there like held against my will for like months and months and months. But even for almost 2 weeks, you know, it's still a lot. First 3 days were the weekend, and they don't do anything on the weekend for like therapy. So I got through the first 2-3 days, and it was just like, we're going to the movies, and we went to like a buffet, and it was just like, why did you make me come in then? And I'm not getting any therapy then. It's because they want to bill over the weekend. So I like even like snuck my phone once. I had like one of the patients like distract the house lady that was there at the time, and I got my phone and I'm like calling Jeff and some of my friends and stuff like that. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, I feel like I can get help somewhere else, but I don't need this. It was just reminding me of like being in a cult, and I just felt like I was being punished when I just honestly just wanted to destimulate from my environment and get help for my problems, because I never figured out my life because I was kind of distracted in my adult life with Scientology. So I get to the point where I tell them I want to leave. And it's like in the middle of the night, it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, I want to do it before like the day starts, before people wake up. Maybe I could leave in the middle of the night. They call a therapist who's like, stay, you need this, or you're leaving against medical advice. I'm like, you never even met me, you never even treated me. Oh, well, it's important for your sobriety. I'm like, see, exactly my point. I'm not here because of drugs and alcohol. I'm here for my mental health. Like, you don't even know what my case is. And when I was talking to like the case managers and stuff, like, maybe I can go into intensive outpatient, or maybe you can help me transition out into the real world. And to do like less care, or I'll go to the other center in LA. Like, I was trying to figure out something with them, and I'm like, maybe you can help me leave after 2 weeks, or help me figure something out, because he's going to drug and alcohol groups 5 times a week or 5 times a day, going to like all these groups about how drugs ruin people's lives. Like, okay, but I don't have this problem. It's like, it just doesn't make sense for me to be here. And they'd be like, no, you have to stay 45 to 60 days. I'm like, but I'm not even getting the right help. And in all the groups too, you'd have like a case person come in, and people just complain, like, you guys are just trying to scam me for my insurance money. You guys don't care, I'm not getting help. Eventually, like, I even had to see a doctor, and I needed a prescription for like lidocaine patches, and they didn't come in for like, 2 days. I'm like, I'm having pain and you can't bring in the lidocaine patches, because obviously I've been having issues, the tumor and different stuff that I probably didn't know about. So they wouldn't bring in that right away. When they made me see the psychiatrist, though, this is the thing. That's the only time in my life I saw the psychiatrist. They bust a whole load of us after hours at like 7 p.m. once the psychiatrist was probably off of work, right? So there was probably like 100 of us, whatever. Probably not that many. I think they brought people in increments, but there was like 40 people there, and you're in a line outside the guy's door. And I was saying the whole time, I don't know what I'm diagnosed with. And they're saying, like, what's your mental health disorder? I'm like, I don't know. Like, that's why I want someone to diagnose me and figure out what's causing these symptoms for me. And I'd be in line, and the guy was like, next. That's how fast it was. You're right outside the door, and he'd give a prescription and go. And the drug addicts wanted Xanax, they wanted Valium, because they're trying to get high off of the prescription drugs. Essentially, like, we might as well get something, so you're trading one drug for the other, basically. And yes, they serve their purpose, those type of medicines, but when you're doing it and trying to tell the psychiatrist you can't focus because you want ADD drugs when you're in therapy, like, I feel like that's not really being honest about your sobriety. But everyone has their own journey, so I guess that's what they do. But I went in there, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong, like, whatever, like, I'm having these symptoms, like, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. Okay, I have depression, anxiety, like, take all these 5 pills. And I didn't even no idea what they were, couldn't Google them, couldn't look them up online. They wouldn't give me any information. They just say in the morning, like, take these pills, and I'd say, no, I didn't take the antidepressants or the anxiety pills or anything. So I had to sign off every time, like, you refuse the medicine, and like signing all these papers every time. and say they prescribed it 3 times a day, they'll pull me out of the group and they have to offer it to me, and I have to say no, and I have to sign another form. So it was just so silly. And, you know, I met a lot of people that, you know, I really sympathized and I really felt bad. I wish I could help these people, nothing I can do. But, you know, like this girl once, like, I remember, like, first day, she was like, oh, what's your DOC? I'm like, what's DOC? Meaning, like, drug of choice. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And, you know, she's telling me all these hard drugs she was doing. Like, I'm like, oh, like, I never met anyone who's, like, done those type of drugs. Call me naive, but I never met someone who did that. And it was just kind of crazy to me because I was in drug rehab when I wasn't on drugs. It was almost, like, very misleading. Like, I'm surprised that I even stayed there for the 9 days. There were some groups that I felt like, yeah, like this is nice, like it could be helpful to some degree, but then it got to the point where it's just kind of like, no, like this isn't the right environment for like my recovery from my mental health stuff. You know, the thing that I got away from it is like, you know, you can, I think in the beginning, like you wrote a letter to like your depression, like to say bye to that, and like be more consciously aware of like your mental health and not like relapsing with your mental health into like a spiral and trying to do like more healthy things instead of like old behaviors to kind of like cope with it. But they didn't give the coping mechanisms. It might have been too soon in my stay there, but you know, I was Googling it and a lot of people were complaining about insurance, overbilling and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I basically chalked that experience up to. I never told you guys about that, but I did go for a little while. I was always embarrassed to talk about it since, you know, I didn't really stay to actually go through the program. I wanted to go to somewhere else. This was, again, 4 or 5 years ago, guys, so it was a while ago. And still don't have a really great therapist, and I still haven't handled a lot of things. And sometimes just going through life, like, I do feel like I'm in a much better place. But in other ways, I'm like, I kind of want to talk to someone about what I'm going through. And I really wish there was therapists who really understand, like, cult dynamics. And there probably are. I went to the one go-to person in LA and didn't have a good experience. So I don't know who else to see regarding this. And I'm hoping that I can maybe see someone who deals with maybe abuse or trauma or other things to maybe work on those things. So I probably told you guys, I don't remember if I updated, I did end up calling it off with the therapist I was seeing because, again, he was not a good fit for me, and I feel like all he would do was be like, you're such a hero, you're so brave, like you've been through so much in your life. And I'm like, okay, like I need help, like tell me something here, like I'm going through all these different stories. You've been through a lot. Not a lot of people could go through what you went through. Okay, great. So then help me because I'm struggling with a lot of these feelings. And he would not offer me anything good. And I felt like he was, in the beginning, he made very inappropriate comments. Like I was having a panic attack once where I was very anxious, or post-panic attack maybe. And then his way of grounding me was this: look around the room and find something that's attractive to your eye. Besides me, look around here and find 3 things appealing to you. It's like, that sounds so inappropriate. Like, why you're telling me to like pick out you, or like implying anything about you. And again, I could be reading into that, but it made me feel uncomfortable because I have problems with people crossing that line with me. And when I have trust, especially with like in a professional setting, I don't like when people cross it and it turns sexual or romantic, or especially when the person knows I'm married or whatever, or people hit on me, especially with gay guys. I know it sounds bad, but I've had a lot of instances where I want a platonic gay friend and they try to cross the line with me or make inappropriate comments. So I have problems trusting people. And I started trusting this guy, even though it was only a couple sessions, and you know, he'd smile at me, and it just felt very inappropriate. I'd be saying something very dark and he'd be kind of smiling, kind of going like that, and it just wasn't a good fit. And now I kind of feel upset. It's like, wow, I got the courage to go, and now I kind of didn't have a good experience. So I just have to keep trying again. And maybe I'll start getting maybe a good therapist and a good fit. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to update you on that really quickly and tell you about my rehab stay story. I want to hear what you guys think about this whole situation. Like, was I wrong for leaving? Like, should I have stayed? I don't know. I guess that's not really for people's, you know, debate, but I'm just kind of curious about it. Like, I don't know. It was kind of a letdown too. I'm like, wow, like I felt like I couldn't get help. Like, you think that's how you get help, is like, say, going to rehab, and then you go and then you realize, oh, like it's sometimes just a scam, to put it lightly. And I don't know. I hope that, you know, I can let my guard down and start trusting a therapist and find someone who can work with me. And I don't know. I have a lot of other videos about Scientology, though, coming your way, guys. I just wanted to post this as a story time, I guess, about what happened that one time I went to rehab. And I have a couple other missing persons videos and other things about Scientology that I've been researching. There's a lot of YouTube drama. Go on over to Mango Tea, guys, if you want to see like YouTube beauty drama. There's a lot going on. That's its own other world, so go check that out. I've been posting videos over here on Mangotology that link over to that channel, so you guys probably have seen some of my videos pop up. So if you guys have any interest in that, subscribe over there. I will be posting more videos over this weekend about Scientology, so stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your bell notifications to stay posted on those, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.